Welcome to the IVM Podcast Network. Hi, this is Amit Doshi, and I wanted to thank each and every one of our listeners. It's been 2 years since I founded IVM, and it's been an amazing 2 years. We wanted to learn a little bit more about who is listening to our shows, and so we put together a short survey. The survey is anonymous, and we aren't going to be collecting any personal information. I would really appreciate it if you could take a couple of minutes out of your day and go to ivmpodcast.com/survey and fill it out. Thanks, and please keep listening.
In 2015, Ambika and Hoshner quit their jobs and set out to rediscover the country through planes, trains, and rickety old buses. What started as a break has now grown into a life of travel and discovery. On this podcast, they take you through the highlights of their journey. This is the reDiscovery Podcast.
In this episode, we take you to India's wild, wild east, Nagaland, and its capital city of Kohima.
So reaching Kohima for us was quite the task because we were in Arunachal for the Zero Music Festival the week before. And so we had to drive for 2 days to reach Nagaland from Arunachal. So we drove down from Zero to Itanagar and then to Kaziranga. We had to change cars as we crossed state borders. And from Kaziranga to Dimapur, and then Dimapur finally a 3-hour climb up to Kohima. And as you can imagine, at the end of that 2 days of driving, we were quite done with the driving, and we really wanted to be there and Nagaland and in the hills and so lush and green. And we got stuck in like a 1-hour traffic jam.
Truck traffic jam.
It was literally not moving, and that was our first impression of Kohima.
But Kohima, despite all of that, grew on us, and we spent a few more days than we expected.
It ended up being a much cooler place than we expected.
Yeah.
And I mean, part of it is the beauty of it, right? It's like a city which is set right on the top of the hills. It's arranged across 7 or 8 different ridges, and it's all up and down. There's no flat land in that place. So anywhere you're going, you either have to walk up or walk down. So whether you like it or not, you're getting a lot of exercise in Kohima.
There's one main road that goes through the city, so it's really easy to get around. You won't get lost that easily in Kohima. And the best, not the best part of Kohima, obviously, but one thing I think I really liked was that despite all this traffic and the fact that you could be stuck for several minutes at a time, is that nobody honks.
Yeah, they're very peaceful people.
Very peaceful. Nobody was cutting lanes. There's hardly any cops. The few cops are kind of there just to hang around. And everyone's very patient. And so you're in this traffic, but it doesn't feel like this honking wala horrible traffic.
It's very orderly, very peaceful.
Yeah, and that's kind of how they are there also.
Yeah,
very peaceful people.
That's true. So we are in Nagaland, in Kohima, the exotic northeast. One of the things to do there is to check out the markets, because they are like markets you've not seen anywhere else in the country.
Yeah.
So, of course, you'll get your fish and your meats and your vegetables. You'll get a whole bunch of vegetables you've never seen before. But the really interesting stuff, which is not for the, the faint-hearted, you'll get worms, you'll get bee larvae, you'll get snakes, eels, frogs, snails.
Yeah, and all kinds of creepy crawlies that I don't even think we know the names of.
Yeah. So in the morning, all the women come, very well neatly dressed, turned out. Pretty Naga women.
Very pretty. And the women who you saw in the market selling stuff, really beautiful skirts, those Naga skirts woven with all their different designs, pretty blouses, or a lot of them wear Western clothes, so they're wearing really nice pants and tops and sitting at these markets and selling pretty much everything that you can think of.
In the morning it's all, you'll find a tub full of frogs, and by the evening the frogs will mostly be
gone,
over.
The snakes are gone. And you also have the usual meats that everybody eats and all the vegetables and the fruits.
Well, luckily or unluckily, those frogs and snakes and all you won't really find in too many restaurants. People use it to cook at home. So it's mainly things that people eat at home. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but
it depends on whether you want what you want to try or not try.
But the food is pretty awesome.
The food in Nagaland is amazing. And in all the restaurants, in Kohima, you will get typical Naga food. So one of the main things is pork curry and rice, pork curry with bamboo shoots in it, or some beef, or you will get like a bamboo shoot vegetable or squash. Or the duck.
The duck is like a meat I discovered in Nagaland.
Yeah,
I've never eaten
yummy.
duck before that, and it was awesome. It's my favorite like meat now, I think.
They do eat a lot of pork. There's a chance you won't get chicken in most places, but you will get pork, you will get beef. So if you do enjoy those meats, then Nagaland is the place to go to. I think our favorite meal, at least my favorite meal, was the one we had at this place.
Where's
that's
the
called
food?
Where's the Food?
Where's
The
the
Naga
food?
Diner. Yeah, it's a very odd name. And we went there because we saw it on the map and we were like, okay, let's just check this place out.
It was also close to our hotel, and our hotel was far from everything else.
Yeah.
It was
So-
lovely. It was like right on the top of the city, so you had an awesome view of everything. But to get anywhere, you had to walk down 3 hills and walk up 2 other hills, and it was a pain in the ass. And Where's the Food was very close.
Yeah. And also Where's the Food had a great view.
Where's the Food had a great view,
view.
yeah.
So that was a place we ate at. It's nice. It's run by this brother-sister duo, and they make really yummy food. So she fed us one evening. We were like, just give us whatever you want. We'll eat anything. And she gave us this duck and pork curry and chicken and pork curry.
I mean, this is the only place I think in the world where you'll get a curry which has duck and pork, or chicken and pork. Basically, you put
It was
anything in it, but
chicken
pork
and-
to hona mangta hai.
Chicken and duck, I think, or something, whatever it was. It was really yum. They eat a lot of dal, so vegetarians, don't worry. There's a lot of dal that they eat. There's all sorts of vegetables, and vegetables that you might not get in other parts of the country. For example, squash is a staple over there, and
Yeah.
squash I have only ever seen in Tamil Nadu and in parts of Kerala, but nowhere else in India do you get squash.
There are a couple of really nice cafes there which play live music, have great views, and where you can sit and have, momos,
Noodles,
and fried rice, and all that is all
thukpa,
available.
Salad. There's a Dream Cafe which has the live music
Yeah,
that
Dream
Hosna
Cafe is
mentioned.
really cool.
And they also have like backpacker food, I guess, because they serve you pancakes and sandwiches and milkshakes and also if you want something a little different, it's a good option.
Yeah, so I think we spent the first couple of days in Nagaland just in
Eating.
Kohima just eating.
Eating, yeah. Because there was list of recommended places and we just went from one to the other.
Yeah, and I think after 2 days of stuffing up on all that, we said, "Acha, chalo, now it's time to go for a trek." So we headed up to Zuku Valley.
Because trekking up and down Kohima wasn't enough.
Wasn't enough, yeah. So Zuku Valley is this really cool place. I mean, it's about 30 odd kilometers outside of Kohima, and to get to Zuku Valley, you have to do a easy-ish 2-hour trek uphill or a hard 1-hour trek uphill. So we chose the easiest 2-hour trek uphill,
Which was still a
which
little
was
hard.
not so easy,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it was doable.
But we are also not
The fittest people.
We are novice trekkers, I
Yeah,
guess.
but so you're climbing up for 2 hours through the forest, and it's a beautiful forest. There's these trees which are huge old trees, and they have all this moss and fern growing on the branches. This was just after monsoon, pretty soon after the monsoon, and anyway it rains there a lot.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's
just
very lush, very lush.
And this is, mind you, at like 7 o'clock in the morning. So we've already gotten up really early. And then we're walking up. So it's a little bit... at that point, we were like, this is really, really hard. But once you're done, you realize in hindsight, it's not that difficult. It's very doable.
Yeah, and
it's worth it.
It's totally worth it.
It's totally worth it.
It's incredibly... It's not even beautiful, it's surreal once you get up there. So you have to get up to that point, and then you have to walk to Zuku Valley for another couple of hours, which is a nice walk on flat land. And you're walking out of a path literally carved out of the side of the hill. And it's just green. Now, the season we went on was actually not the right season to go to Zuku. You have to go to Zuku for season in, I think it's May, when the entire valley is fully flowering. So it's sort of, Nagaland's valley of
Multicolored.
flowers.
Yeah.
And it's got all sorts of wildflowers there. But even without that, it's stunningly beautiful because the landscape is something like you've never seen before. It's not like the regular mountains you'll see in the Himalayas. It's hills which are, they look, I mean,
They're low hills.
They're low hills and they're sort of rounded and sort of rolling, and the closest thing you can find to describe it is like sand dunes.
Sand dunes.
Yeah, they were like
green sand dunes.
That's what they were like, and it was very different from anything we had ever seen before.
Yeah, so we get to the top, we've crossed over, we've come to Zuku Valley, and we're just amazed by this site. And you see pictures of Zuku Valley, but nothing prepares you for it once you're
The first
actually
sight
there.
of it is like,
is undescribable. I don't think we have words for it. So we get there, we've had our lunch of tomato sandwiches and fruit, which the guide had brought for us. And we're sitting on this rocky outcrop. There's a stream, and the stream is where Zuku Valley gets its name from, right?
Yeah, it means a frozen river or something similar to that.
And,
because it gets really cold up there in winters.
So we're sitting, and you just have this, it's like the most beautiful place you could eat lunch in.
Yeah, I think the only thing we regret is that we didn't decide to spend the night there, because that would have been, I think, really magical up there.
Yeah.
We did the whole trek in a day, which means we walked close to, I think, 14-15 kilometers up
In
and
a
down,
day,
which
yeah.
was quite exhausting. But if we had stayed, I mean, you can stay up there, you can camp up there, you can, all that gets organized and stuff. So it's I think it's a great idea if you have that one extra day to go up there, camp, see the sunrise, see the sunset in Zuku. It'll be something incredible.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to do in Kohima, and one of the things that we did, which a lot of people don't know about Nagaland and that region, is that it's one of the main theaters of World War II. So some of the biggest battles and very important battles between the Japanese and the British forces were fought in the Naga Hills in Kohima. So this is part of
the Naga Hills were where the Japs finally were stopped, and where the advance was sort of stopped.
Right.
And where they were pushed back from.
Yeah. So this is not it's not a part of Indian history that a lot of people know or discuss. But it's important. So we went to the war cemetery in Kohima, which was the site of one of the more decisive battles when the Brits defeated the Japanese, along with their other allied forces. A lot of Indians, a lot of Nagas were fighting with the British at that time. And the war cemetery, it's on the top of this one of the hills, and you can see the entire city from around you. And it's very peaceful. There's all these tombstones.
It's very somber also.
Yeah, somber, peaceful.
And that hill was also where I think the battle was actually, one of the battles was actually fought.
Yeah, it was fought on that hill. So you can see the tombstones, and you see there is, rows and rows of the Sikh regiment people over there. Then there were people from different Commonwealth countries. There were British officers. There were Indians. There was an Australian guy. We saw his grave, and young people and older people. So
Bengalis and Nagas, and it was
and Assamese, and
yeah.
so everybody, they've got a little tombstone from then, and then a memorial has been erected. So important place to go and visit. I think
the cool part is it gives you tells you about a side of history that most Indians, I think, are not aware of. And it's something that engulfed that entire region in that period in the early 40s.
It was something that really defined...
there are forests in Naga and Arunachal. If you are the kind who likes trekking, and you can trek into these places, and you will find remains of planes, you will find remains of old machine guns and stuff like that, which have been lying there for the last 60, 70 years.
Yeah, and they're now still being discovered. So that's part of history that I think important to keep remembering. Around Kohima, there are a couple of villages which give you a sort of authentic feel of a Naga village, and they're close enough to the city. So if you don't have time to head out into Nagaland...
We spent 3 weeks in Nagaland, but obviously we understand everybody can't. So if you really want to get that feel of Nagaland as it is, it's Nagaland lives in its villages, like lots of India. So and it's really nice to get out and see those places, because the lifestyle... Not even the lifestyle, the way of life is completely different. And the pace of life is completely different, and it's just lovely.
So one of the places we went to, which is pretty close by, it's about an hour and a half by a taxi, is Kohima. And Kohima is really famous for its layered green and yellow paddy fields that are cut along the side of the mountain. It's known as jhum cultivation or slash and burn cultivation. And it's kind of detrimental to the forest, so they're now working to bring the forests back. But that aside, it's a very, very pretty sight, because you see these fields and they're in different shades of yellow and green.
Yeah, it's very beautiful.
And it's really pretty. And it's a photos that you see of Nagaland are from Kohima, so you can definitely go and visit there.
Yeah, and the fields are all, the way these things are arranged is the villages are at the tops of the hills, and the fields are on the sides of the hills.
Yeah.
So if you're a Naga farmer, you need to walk down and up those hills every day. It's a good 3-4 kilometer walk up and down every day. And we tried to go down to one of these hills in another to the fields in another village we were staying at later, and it took the Jimmy out of us. So you really appreciate how hard it is, that life is not
They're
easy.
very fit people.
They're very fit people.
Yeah, so we got to the village, and we got a guide, because if you're not staying in the village, then it's better to get a guide, because you can then communicate with all the villagers. They take you and they show you around the sites. And our guide was, I think he was a little bit drunk, maybe. But I'm not sure. But he was very entertaining nonetheless. He was.
That was because he was a little bit drunk.
Yeah, probably. But he had lots of fun stories to tell us.
One story he told us is when they have the village feast, they drink a lot. They drink their locally brewed rice beer, and they drink it out of these cups made out of animal horns. So now the thing is that the animal horn cup doesn't have a base. You can imagine, like a bison horn, holding it ulta, and you're filling it with rice beer. It doesn't have a base, so you can't ever put it down. So you're always holding it, and the moment you take a sip, they'll come and refill it. That's their funda there. So you must be drunk.
Yeah. So anyway, so Kohima, it's like all other Naga villages. It's neat, it's clean, it's green, and it's pretty.
It's very quaint.
Very quaint. They have these little wooden homes. Now you see maybe there's the odd cement structure, but largely they are more traditional homes. Everybody has flowers either in their garden or in their windows. So you're walking around these little narrow streets with the homes and the pathways, and it's a very pretty place. So you can easily spend a few hours enjoying
and the villages in this part of Nagaland also have that unique architecture where they have these, cross beams in front of the house. So I don't know how to describe the massive cross beams which sit across the front of the house, like big horns on top of the house. And they also have they used to hunt a lot, the Nagas. They still do, but back in the day there was a lot of hunting that happened. And a big part of their culture is to have hunting trophies. So on the front of all their homes, you'll see these gaur horns and bison horns and hornbill beaks and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
So it makes for a very interesting sight.
Yeah. These horns in the wooden cross beams in front of the homes are in Kohima and other villages in that area, because they are part of the Angami tribe.
And that's their style.
Which is their style of homes. Yeah. So you won't see it in all of Nagaland, but you'll see it in any Angami home. So so we spent the day in Kohima.
Yeah, we saw the fort.
We saw the fort, yeah.
It's not a fort like you see anywhere else in India.
It's not a fort.
They call it a fort, and it's essentially a fort. It's like a defensive structure, small little, rock-made defensive structure.
It's small.
It's small. It's not like your Rajasthani ornate, massive forts.
Forget Rajasthan. It's
like a small house.
It's like a small house.
Yeah.
It's about, you climb up to the top of the fort, and that climb is like 20 steps.
Correct.
Yeah, that's
not even.
Yeah. But see, the cool part about Kohima is that it's on the top of the ridge, and it's at a slope, and the fort is on the highest point.
Yeah.
So they didn't really need this massive fort, because their vantage point was excellent, and from the top you can see all around you.
And you can imagine back in the day, a lot of the Nagaland had, lot of the people in Nagaland had a lot of conflict with the British at that time, besides the fact that they had conflict amongst themselves. So the Brits often tried to take Kohima, but the vantage point of it made it pretty easy for them to beat them back. So you can imagine the Brits coming up the hill and the Nagas throwing spears at them and shooting at them with their homemade guns. It was a pretty cool sight, it would have been.
Okay, yeah. I don't know about cool, but yeah. But that's how Kohima likes to tell you that they were never taken in battle, and this is because of their vantage point. And vantage point are not from the fort. The sight around you is incredible, because you can see all the hills, you can see layers and layers of their fields, you can see the forests, and if you sit there, you'll see the sun setting at some point. And I don't think we saw a bad sunset in all the time we were in
3
Nagaland.
3 weeks in Nagaland, no bad sunsets.
Yeah, so
and
that's Kohima.
Kohima itself also in the night is very pretty. Because
it's very beautiful.
It's all the lights and, arranged around the hills, and it's very pretty.
Yeah, I don't think the lights were arranged on the hills, but the houses are all on the hills. And they're mostly homes or very low squat structures, no big towering buildings or glass structures. So it's very nice looking, even though it's a bit of a crowded city.
Yeah, and don't stop at Kohima if you have the time. There are lots of other small villages around Kisama, Jukhama. They all end with Ma. So just go anywhere with Ma in the 15-20 kilometer radius. There are lots of them around.
I don't think Zukama is a real place.
It's where you start the Zuku Valley trek from.
Okay.
It is a real place.
Okay, fine. So a couple of other things in Kohima we did, which I think are again something to do. One was the State Museum, and I understand a lot of people are not museum people, but we went because it gives you like a really cool and quick overview of all the tribes.
Yeah, you must go. I mean, I think Nagaland has about 16 major tribes, and they're, the way they dress, their customs are all different in small ways.
Yeah, the headgear is different. And the State Museum, it's laid out really well, so it shows you all the different clothing for the different tribes, the different headgear, the different types of their homes, and then little bit history.
It also has those skulls.
The skulls. There are some skulls.
So the Nagas back in the day used to be headhunters, which basically meant that when they were warring factions, one of their chief things was to take the enemy's head, because they believed that if you chop off someone's head, the soul and the power comes to you and stuff. So it was a big custom for them in war to chop off the enemy's head. Those customs have now died away, obviously, so you don't have to worry about your head getting chopped off in Nagaland. And most of these skulls obviously have now been disposed of or buried, but there are a few of them which they show in the museum, so that's pretty cool.
There's also there's a collection of black and white photos.
Yeah, very nice.
From the early part of the 1900s, so you can see life in Kohima and around as it would have been 100 years ago. So that collection is very cool of people and their way of life. Then there's also the church.
Yeah, there are a few churches. One which is, again, interesting is because it was, it's again up on a hill and it's got a great view like everything around. And it's different from the regular churches you'll find in anywhere else in India or in Europe. They're very simple churches.
Very simple, yeah.
And this one was set up by families of Japanese survivors of World War II. So it's got some unique history around. Definitely worth a visit.
Yeah, and it's an important church in Nagaland and in Kohima.
Nice stained glass.
Nice stained glass, and the churches there and across the state, they're not as ornate as you would see in Europe or even other parts of India. But like Nagaland, they're very simple and very clean, very neat, very elegant sort of buildings. Yeah.
The churches are different, just like everything else there.
We spent we ended up spending, I think, almost 5 days there.
We planned to spend a couple of days and bounce, but we ended up spending 5-6 days there.
Yeah.
And it's a great trip to do for a long weekend. You don't have to drive 2 days to get there like we did. I mean, there's a flight that you can take into Dimapur, and from Dimapur it's literally a 3-hour drive or less.
Yeah, 2 to 3 hours depending on traffic.
Up to Kohima, and I mean, you can easily spend 3 days there very peacefully, 3-4 days.
Yeah, do the trek, see some stuff in the city, eat all the yummy food.
Yeah, and we did the one trek. There's lots of other treks you can do there if you want to.
Yeah, and there's plenty of places to stay in Kohima. I mean, there are some hotels, so you can stay in the fancier hotels. You can stay, I mean, they're not like your Taj Hotel in Bombay, but they're nice enough.
Yeah, they're very serviceable.
Yeah, they're very nice.
But if you want to get like a good traveler experience, we suggest you stay at this place called Morung Lodge, which is a nice backpacker little place in Nagaland, in Kohima. And they also set up village stays and excursions. So it's a great place to stay, meet other people, and very reasonably priced. Good experience.
And they cook you dinner if you want. So it's nice homemade Naga food.
Homemade Naga food.
So maybe you'll get something from one of the markets. Yeah. So that's all we have for Kohima.
Yep.
You can check out more about our travels on Facebook. We're on Instagram or on our website www.reDiscoveryproject.com.
Thank you.
Thank you. In the next episode, we take you to the arty village of Puri with the ancient Sun Temple, beautiful coastline, and the famous Puri-style cheesecake. The reDiscovery podcast is an Indus Vox Media production. If you like listening to this podcast, check out their entrepreneurial podcast, My Neighbor Zuckerberg, where Munaf Kapadia and Nabil Merchant talk to like-minded entrepreneurs about their struggles and successes. New episodes every Monday.